What role does electricity play in the body? Hey, I'm Priscilla. I'm a Houston, Texas nurse, and I'm going to help you take action today for a healthier tomorrow. Did you know that our bodies are actually electrical beings? It sounds funny, but understanding it can have a huge impact on how we promote our own health and wellness, especially as we age. So we tend to focus on things that we can measure, right? We want to think about or that we can physically measure, such as our weight, bone density, muscle strength, speed, blood work, all those things. But sometimes we're not actually thinking about what is driving those processes. And one aspect that does drive the results that we're desiring in our ability to decrease our risk for disease as we age is something that we cannot immediately see with our eyes, because it is happening on a cellular level, and it is our body's electricity. And it sounds crazy, but you're going to start to be hearing more and more about this, because it might have at one time sounded kind of fringe, but it is not fringe. It is very scientific. And the more you embrace it, the more likely you will be to utilize the power associated with it. And I'm really excited to be learning more about it and to be able to share with you. So like I was saying, how we tend to focus on things that we can measure, right? Like blood work. I know I said we can't measure the electricity in our body, but actually that's not true. One exception to that rule is something called an electrocardiogram, an EKG, or an ECG. And these are printouts of the electrical aspect of the heart. If you or a parent or a grandparent or a loved one, maybe you've gone to a cardiologist and you've had to have one done, or maybe you've had a family member in the hospital, and you can look at the screen and it shows not just the pulse, which is the heartbeat, but it also shows the heart rhythm. And then also, to reinforce how important it is to understand electricity, I'm going to tell you what the definition of a rhythm is. Rhythm is defined as a strong, repeated movement or sound. So it could be a repeated sound. And then sound is defined as vibrations that move through the air or a medium. So our heart rhythm, in fact, is actually, the definition can be changed to vibrations of electricity moving through our body. And you cannot refute that. Everyone has a rhythm to their heart. There are good rhythms and there are bad rhythms. And the only sign of death, of not having life, is something called a flat line. We don't want that. We want to have not just a rhythm, but also a good rhythm. Since we know this is happening in our heart, and we aim to have a healthy heart rhythm, why wouldn't we implement the same for the rest of our body, right? I'm going to go into just a little bit about the electrical aspect that I found really confusing, and I want to try to break it down so that we can build on this foundation of understanding electricity in the body a little bit better. The first thing we need to understand is that we want to have a negative electrical charge in our body. And this can be confusing because negative in this example is good. Usually you think positive is good and negative bad. But in this instance, in this example, the electricity for our body, negative is good. We want to have an overriding negative charge or an abundance of something called electrons in our body. Electrons are negative, protons are positive. Negative ions are ions that have more electrons than protons, okay? Positive ions are ions that have more protons than electrons, okay? So which one is more determines if it's positive or negative. So negative ions carry more electrons than protons, and that is beneficial to our health. Positive ions carry an overriding positive charge, and that is detrimental to our health. And here's how. When cells have more protons than electrons, when they carry that overriding positive charge, they are called positive ions, like I said. Those positive ions, do you want to know another word for those? Free radicals. Maybe you've heard of those before if you're There's a good chance you have free radicals. Think about how crazy that sounds. It's not good, okay? Free radicals or positive ions, they damage our cells because they rob electrons from the body to neutralize their charge. And so remember, we want to have an overriding negative charge. And so these positive ions, these free radicals, the body knows we need to have that negative charge, right? So these positive ions actually rob negative charges from other parts of the body. And this is not good, okay? So in order for positive ions to balance out and achieve the goal of having more electrons than protons, they require more electrons, right? So where will they get these electrons from? From other cells and other sources in the body that have the negative electrical charge, okay? This process, as you can imagine, it only creates more damage because it is robbing the cells of their balance, and it makes them now lack electrons. The ones that had to donate now lack electrons, okay? Also, in the process of robbing electrons from the body to neutralize the charge, that process can then harm the cells and result in things like DNA damage, protein damage, cell dysfunction, mitochondrial dysfunction, and cell death. All of those things lead to chronic health issues, especially cancer. This is why all this is so important to understand, because that one process right there, if you break it down, all of a sudden we want to be thinking, okay, well, I don't want to have very many positive ions in my body, right? And I want to make sure that my body constantly has a high source of electrons so that when I do come in contact, or when I inevitably do have positive ions in my body has the ability to donate those electrons to help neutralize it without it turning into a chronic process or a chronic disease. So negative ions, molecules, or atoms with extra electrons, they can donate those electrons to cells to help achieve that balance. Now it's really obvious, right? Like I was saying, we would benefit from having an abundance of a flowing source of electrons in our body. We need to have a fountain of electrons in our body, right? We need to go to a source of electrons in order to refuel. Where do we get negative ions? Where can we get an abundance of electrons? We need to increase our contact with the source of negative ions, right? And so negative ions are present in nature. How cool is that? Electrons are abundant in the earth, okay? This is why when you touch the earth with bare feet or hands, whether it's, I like to do bare feet in the grass, you can touch your hands to the grass, you can be gardening, you can be on the beach, you can be anywhere. But when you do that, you are increasing the influx of electrons in our body. And think of it like a gas station to help refuel negative ions. It is inevitable that we will have positive ions in our body. By going and getting this source, we're increasing it, okay? Chronic diseases are often driven by unpaired electrons. Also interesting that negative ions are particularly in abundance around forests, beaches, waterfalls, mountains, etc. This is cool. When water molecules are agitated, such as waves crashing or wind blowing through trees, they release negative ions into the air. So just by being out in nature and breathing these things in, we also get a source of these negative ions. So you might be thinking, what are sources of positive ions? Wi-Fi, cell phones, air pollution, microwaves, toxic chemicals, fluorescent lights, just to name a few. And so if we truly want to age well and prevent disease, we have to have a substantial flow of electrons to counteract the damage that we come into contact daily. This leads to the importance of addressing also, I talked about water that carries a charge inside of our body. And this will lead to the next post or video all about the water inside of our body. I'm so excited to share what I've learned about that. If you have any questions about what I mentioned, or if you would like to hear more about anything, please comment below. So excited to share this with you, and take care.